The first chapter of the manga opens with the wrestlers, Daniel, the Crusher, and Kwon-young-min, the Master, standing in a wrestling ring face to face, ready to battle, with the audience clapping behind them. In comparison to Daniel, Kwon-young-min appears to be nothing more than a little child when seen from his vantage point. Daniel is a towering and strong individual. Daniel rushes in to hit Kwon-young-min with his fist, but Kwon-young-min easily avoids it. Kwon-young-min then knocks out the other player with a single kick in under 2 seconds, which leaves everyone startled, and the referee announces that the winner is Master Kwon-young-min. A news reporter approaches Kwon-young-min after the contest is completed to inquire about the athlete's feelings over his triumph. In reaction to this, Kwon-young-min declares that he is overjoyed to have won and that, as of right this now, he truly does occupy the highest position in the world of martial arts, thus, he is going to retire right now. Kwon-young-min is relaxing at home in front of his television the next morning as he watches the news about his unexpected announcement of retirement. He thinks that things will be disorderly at first, but that things will eventually settle down and become tranquil. The next instant, his sister Min-young comes there and she smacks him. She advises him to go out and make some friends or do something else, but he asks her where he can even find friends to make. His sister is the first to admit that it is tough for him to meet friends now due to the fact that he has spent his whole life on the outside looking in. After that, she makes the suggestion that he go to the gym. However, Kwon-young-min informs her that he will not be working out anymore because he has retired and would instead just rest for the time being. As a consequence of this, his sister becomes incensed and demands to know the rationale for allowing him to retire at the tender age of 24. She is of the opinion that retirement is something that ought to be celebrated and boasted about. To which his sister answers that he will gain weight in no time if he goes on relaxing like this, and proposes that he play the virtual game Final Saga as she turns on the television to watch an interview with a player of Final Saga. His sister is a fan of Final Saga. The player Ashton is questioned by the interviewer about his thoughts on the prospect of a real-life martial arts practitioner, like Kwon-young-min, participating in the game. Even more boastful than before, Ashton declares that there is no one else left who can compete with him and he. Kwon-young-min, after hearing all of this, comes to the conclusion that he will play Final Saga and put up a challenge to Ashton. The next thing that happens is that Kwon-young-min travels to the building where Final Saga is located in order to get himself enrolled, and everyone there is shocked by his look. When Kwon-young-min asks the receptionist where he can play the Final Saga, the receptionist tells him that he needs to get a body scan first and then takes him into a separate room for the body scan for his abilities. When the girl saw the results of the scan, she was taken aback, as his strength, agility and stamina all are max. In the meantime, in the operator room, where the operators are trying to add extra points in Kwon-young-min's profile because he is a pro joining the game, and according to the rules on getting 20 points for an international championship and 5 points for a domestic championship, after adding all of Kwon-young-min's victories, the staff could not believe at the score he got. Kwon-young-min, on the other hand, rouses himself from a deep nap after a considerable amount of time has passed, and then decides to play Final Saga. As soon as he switches the switch on the helmet, he has the sense of falling down and landing in front of a virtual window, which is when the game begins. Also, quick reminder as we are going through the recap, if you are new to the channel, around 52% of viewers are watching, are not already subscribed, and if that's you and you want to guarantee you're always up to date with all good content like this, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and join us on the road to 1 million subs. And if you enjoy the video or if you found it interesting, let me know by dropping a like and comment on it as well, which would be seriously appreciated. Let's continue. Kwon is beginning to feel confused after receiving all of these notifications, and soon a message appears asking him to select a name for his character. He makes the decision to go with the name Rian despite the fact that he hadn't previously given the matter any attention. All of a sudden, a plethora of bars pertaining to account and character data begin to display. As he types in the name, he sees a second version of himself that is dressed in a gaming outfit of green color appear in front of him. After that, the display asks Kwon if he would like to begin a tutorial, to which he responds in the affirmative. Following that, the battle between Rian and another monster that is continually hitting him begins, but Rian is able to quickly dodge all of the other creatures' strikes. This session is being watched by the personnel in the operator room, and they are all impressed by Kwon's abilities. They also remark that this instruction is sufficient to shatter all records in the category. In the meantime, Kwan's sister shares the news with her friend that Kwan has officially joined the game, which leads her friend to become extremely ecstatic. Nevertheless, Kwan's sister asks her friend why she seems worried, and her friend responds that she knows Kwan Young-min has never given anything his full potential. In fact, it is more accurate to say that he never had the chance to unleash his full potential because this world is too small and fragile to accept it. Kwan Young-min is currently at the 30th level of the virtual game Final Saga Doppelganger, and is getting ready to compete against another player. Kwan is excited to fight another player and has the intention of winning the match with a single blow. His opponent attempts to attack Kwan first, but Kwan is able to quickly dodge him and attack him. He then performs a leg strike to kick his opponent, and with that, Kwan wins the fight and completes his training. Final score, all kill. First place currently holds in the overall standings that have been compiled. Final evaluation, SSS. A martial bone was presented to him as a token of appreciation for the exceptional job that he did in the training session. He must now choose between obtaining a nature's body or a martial god's body, but Kwan is unaware of the significance of either of these titles. He must make his choice as quickly as possible. As a consequence of this, he decides to conduct research on both subjects, during which he learns that martial arts is one of the subjects. Kwan made the decision to go with the second option because he wants to learn something new despite the fact that he was already at the pinnacle of martial arts because to the martial bone alteration that took place in his body. The power of pure martial arts combat is increased by God's body. The battle strength of skills is increased by using nature's body. While all of this is taking place, Kwan's sister and her friend are still at the cafe where they were earlier, pondering the various ways in which they can help Kwan out. In contrast, Kwan is engaged in conflict with a pack of wolves, yet he is easily able to prevail over them. He has arrived at the conclusion that this circumstance is not unusual in any way. Instantaneously, he became aware of several other gamers who were attempting to combat the wolves. At that same time, a status window appears and presented Rian's, the name of Kwan's character, current state that include his species, gender, level, job status, health, hunger, thrust, power and agility, and also shows ability points were not spent on this character. Kwan theorizes that the existence of a 45-point premium on everything could be attributable to the martial bone. Kwan decides to ignore the weird calculations, and as a result, he travels into a high-level zone without realizing it. It was right at the moment when he was waking up while he was traveling that he heard growling sounds, and immediately after that, a pack of blue wolves of level 25 materialized in front of him. He is perplexed as to how it went from level 10 to level 25 so quickly, but he still readies himself for the fight against Unfazed. As Kwan readies himself to engage in combat with the wolves, the ground suddenly begins to shake, causing the wolves to flee in terror. This is due to the fact that the Wild Forest King Grizzly Bear, level 35, has suddenly materialized and is growling wildly as it attempts to attack Kwan Young-min. This catches Kwan off guard due to the fact that the bear is surprisingly quick considering its enormous size. However, Kwan is unfazed by the bear and uses his ability to see the weaknesses of grizzly bears to determine that the mouth is the animal's primary vulnerability. After finding bear's weak point, Kwan gets ready to combat the bear. Bear attacks him several times, which he escape all and jump to strike bear's mouth with his fist. He then attacked the bear again, kicking his jaw this time after continually assaulting bear's face. Kwan finally defeats him and earn various achievements. Screen appears informing Kwan he has earned killed a bear at level 1 achievement. Levels are just number achievement. Lord of the Forest achievement. 5% increased damage on every attack. With that, Kwan Young-min gets new gloves that are shaped as bear paws, that have various powers. Kwan is very happy to have those gloves and thinks about Min Young, his sister, and what she advised him about stat pools. That every stat pool have importance in this game and don't just randomly disturb it. Thinking about him reminds him that she asked him to text her once he enters the game, but Kwan thinks she is not in the game, so there is no point in messaging her and continue to enjoy himself alone. Meanwhile, the operator of Final Saga are amazed and worried after seeing Kwan's unbelievable performance in the game. The staff wonders who this new user is. The admin team must know, to which the other employee says this against users' rights, and maybe it is a user used for testing, Or maybe he is not even a human, just an AI to test their game, but the head of staff is furious and starts yelling how will they be able to make this month's report. One of her subordinates brings her coffee to calm her down. That kind of worked, and she sits peacefully and make that employee in charge of this new mysterious user. On the other hand, Kwon reaches a village named Barrow's Village, also known as Village for Beginners. As he enters the village, everyone is stunned by seeing his gloves and think he must be a pro using his Smurf account to visit village. A group of boys come to him and starts asking for favors. One of the guys say if he can give him an equipment that is trash to him. He just died today, but Kwon ignore them and continues walking, so the boys think he is arrogant. Anyways, Kwon is looking for a guild house for professions, as he needs to get a profession to survive in this world. He finally reaches at the fighting guild. In the guild house, Kwon meets a huge muscular man, who asks him how did you come here, and ask him if he knows it is martial arts guild or if wanted to go somewhere else, to which Kwon says no, he actually want to change his profession as a martial artist. That makes the man extremely happy that finally someone understood the value of martial arts. He then gives Kwon a paper and tell him to place his hand on the paper if he wants to change his profession. This will register him for a new profession. But as Kwon puts his hand on the paper, but something went wrong as the man checks it was a natural delay. Kwon asks him if everything was alright, and the man says yes, and gives him a book to choose one skill from the given skills. Kwon is so unimpressed by the skills and understands why this place is so empty anyhow. He chooses a skill and remarks this place is really unimpressive, at which the man apologizes, and after Kwon leaves, he wonders how he had the legendary natural delay. Wandering the town, Kwon thinks he needs to get a quest, but he don't know where he will get it. He thinks if he should fight some stronger opponents for a bit and reaches at the hunting ground where he sees sick orcs level 28. He thinks to attack it, but some other player have him first. He was disappointed but tries to find another one, and this he go for a vanguard, but miss it again. He thinks he needs to get fast to catch a vanguard and tries again and get success. Just then a girl comes and say if he don't have manners she attacked the monster first, but he stole the kill, but Kwon refused to agree and say he attacked the creature first. The girl gets angry and say if that is how someone should play at this high level, and then leaves. Annoyed by other players, Kwon decides to leave the hunting ground and go to a place without any people, and with that, he moves towards the hills. Next, we see Kwon Young-min fighting a giant beast in the forest. But this time the monster is not empty-handed and is attacking Kwon with a huge hammer. Still, Kwon is not afraid of him. Instead, he is enjoying it and invites the giant pig beast to attack him. He simply dodges all of the beast's attacks, and after some fighting, he finally defeats the giant pig with his final move, roundhouse kick, and with that status screen appears showing he has been leveled up from level 25 to level 28. Kwon is getting a little disappointed that there was only one of them, and just as he was thinking this, a group of giant pigs appear ready to fight. Kwon is not fazed at all by seeing them, instead gets ready to fight excitedly. After killing them all, Kwon again checks his status if he leveled up. After killing these much beast, and he get happy to find all his scores are increased. He has achieved a new title of Master of Chaotic Battles. Kwon continues to move further, hoping there will be more interesting things, and with that, he climbs up the hill and see a middle-aged man. His status bar showing White Cloud Bandit, level 45. Kwon wonders what a bandit is doing in a place like this. What is there to steal, considering he is a level 45? Kwon thinks it will be interesting to fight him, so he picks up a stone and threw it on the man, making him extremely furious, and he comes to attack him. White Cloud Bandit seems like a real strong opponent against Kwon. He also has a long sword as a weapon, but Kwon is not afraid of him as the swordsmen usually attack diagonally. Kwon easily predicts his move and bring to the ground with a single strike. After beating him some more, Kwon moves further and reaches to a wooden fence. Kwon hides behind a tree and sees the fence is guarded by several men, and there was also a watchtower through which men are watching out. Kwon thinks it would have been great if there was a hole, but now he just has to make one. With that, he punches the watchtower and it shatters down to the ground, leaving the men stunned. Kwon starts attacking the men as they are large in number. He remembers a conversation Min Young about handling multiple enemies, and the best way to fight multiple enemies is controlling space. Kwon says lean against a wall or lure them to a narrow space so you can face as few enemies as possible at once. Keeping this in mind, Kwon attacks the men once again, and now he thinks of attacking the leader of these enemies. After fighting many of his men, Kwon finally finds the leader but doesn't attack Kwon at first, and it seems like he is trying to gauge Kwon's abilities. Sometimes later, he comes up with a shoulder charge, in the result of which an explosion occurred that leaves Kwon hanging in the mine by holding a chain. Kwon tries to change location and come out of the mine. The leader acknowledges his bravery and says he wasn't expecting to come out and face him. Kwon knows he is outmatched in terms of strength and now he has to rely on his speed to win against this man. The leader challenges Kwon to attack him and as Kwon attacks him with his fists, he easily dodges and attacks Kwon back which Kwon managed to escape but he realized this man has the same martial arts style as him so it's easy to predict his pattern of attack. After a neck-to-neck fight, Kwon realized this man is not like others and going to give him a tough time and he actually liked this feeling of thrill. The fear of losing, this was the reason he joined this game in the first place. The huge man attacks Kwon with his fist which Kwon easily dodges and attacks him back with a kick after noticing his stubbornness. The leader decides to use his final move and thinks this will be the end of this combat and creates a huge shock wave and attack Kwon with it. Kwon tries to hold back against the wave but it is very difficult even for him and his arm feels numb. Kwon attacks him again, but it doesn't affect the man. His subordinates try to surround Kwon but he stops them and say it is his battle and doesn't want anyone to interfere. Kwon tells him he also hates being interrupted during his battle. Kwon has been missing this thrill and excitement. It has been so long since he has felt this way and thinks he made the right choice by joining this game. The leader once again attacks Kwon with his shock wave but this time Kwon manages to escape it and he moves under his legs. Surprising the leader, he then attacks him with several punches and kicks. After doing some damage to the leader, Kwon says now we are even. Hearing this, the leader gets infuriated and comes to attack him again but Kwon overpowers him and finishes the fight with his final kick. After killing the leader, Kwon gets a level up status and he also receives an orange-colored prize from the combat. It was usual to get blue, gray, and white objects in the beginner zone but it's orange so it should be some uncommon magic grade item. As the leader is defeated, all his subordinates are confused and surprised how this is even possible, but think they should take revenge for their boss. They try to stop Kwon from running and take revenge from him for their boss. Kwon repeats his rule for fighting multiple enemies, control the space. So he lures them all in a small place and easily defeats them all, leaving the bandits shocked and afraid of him. The next morning, Kwon is wandering near a waterfall and the object he got from defeating the bandit group leader is a map. White Cloud Bandit Leader's treasure, which is a legendary treasure. He thought the highest grade was magic grade. He thinks the location shown on the map is not far away from here so he should give it a shot. As he reaches the spot mentioned on the map, nothing happens, making him think there is a secret cave behind the waterfall like in the movies. He climbs up the hill to find out if there is something behind the waterfall but he suddenly slips and falls into the lake, which makes the map unlocks and its hidden trial is activated. Stage 1 trial pass screen appears and Kwon is standing in the middle of something looks like a garden of a palace. Kwon wonders where he is and a status screen appears stating that the second hidden trial has been activated, and they are testing the eye of the target. Lots of robot-like creatures with red eyes appears. Kwon is shocked what these things are. Just the screen appears saying, silence the doll golems, making him wonder what it means and how do they expect him to silence them without any explanation. However, he had no choice but to fight them. Even after breaking them into pieces, nothing happened to them and they appeared once again. Kwon is worried that silencing them wasn't supposed to mean destroy them. Then he remembers the status screen saying they are testing his eyes, so he tries to focus through his eyes to see the weak point of the golems. He passes the stage 2 trial and the screen appears saying hidden trial stage 3 is activated and now they are testing his endurance. Kwon feels extreme pain and wonders if they want him to endure this pain. Moreover, his mana and vitality are also decreasing and the golems keep attacking him continually, but even with all that, Kwon thinks he is not going to give up and die. Also, quick reminder as we are going through the recap, if you are new to the channel, around 52% of viewers are watching, are not already subscribed, and if that's you and you want to guarantee you're always up to date with all good content like this, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and join us on the road to 1 million subs. And if you enjoyed the video or if you found it interesting, let me know by dropping a like and comment on it as well, which would be seriously appreciated. Let's continue. The screen is showing Kwon's decreasing mana and vitality as he continues fighting the golems. He is outnumbered by the golems and has a tough time fighting with them all. His powers continue decreasing and when it remains only 1%. Kwon doesn't try to dodge their attack anymore, instead he looks in golem's eyes and they throw him in the air, which makes the screen appear stating he has passed the level 3 test. As he passes the endurance test, all his pain from fighting suddenly disappears. Also, all his stats are increased by 5 and he acquired elemental affinity. That increases his elemental resistance and attack power by 10%. Kwon is happy by all these increased powers and he is relieved that the pain is now over. Just then, he notices a round glowing object near the broken pieces of golems. Kwon picks it up thinking it the reward item and suddenly it breaks and an orange glove appears on Kwon's hands. He thinks it must be legendary grade because it's orange. As Kwon is still busy watching his glove, a young girl appears in front of him with a gust of wind. The girl says, "It is you who shall carry on my progress." Kwon thinks she is another opponent and challenges her to fight, but she easily overpowers him and put him against the wall, so he can listen to her peacefully. Kwon tries to get up again, but he can't, which makes the girl amused that he is still trying to counterattack her and tells him that he won't be able to move for some time, so he should just listen to her. She then tells him that he passed all her tests and now she is allowing him to follow her footsteps, and if he faithfully walk that path he can be the strongest among human. She gives him her hand and asks if will he accept it, and just then a screen appears in front of Kwon saying he has received an offer from martial god. He thinks being the strongest among humans will be the same as he used to be in real life as a martial art master. If he accept this offer or even just reach the similar level, becoming the strongest among users wouldn't be that difficult. He asks if he accept her offer will he become stronger than her, to which she laughs and say that he can become the strongest among users, but he can't compete her. Kwon says if that's the case he will not accept her offer and will find another way to defeat her. This makes the martial god extremely furious. Then the screen appears saying he has abandoned the quest of descendant of martial god and he cannot re-accept it now. Kwon gets up and gets focused to fight her. Seeing this, the martial god is impressed and thinks of how he got up since he shouldn't be able to move after her attack, making her conclude he has strong willpower and is truly focused on defeating her. Seeing this, all she laughs and says she already gives up and lose against him. She says she saw the potential in him and if he wants to defeat her she will grant him powers to defeat her as he wish. She then pulls out a book and give it to Kwon. As she offers him the book, screen appears saying Kwon has acquired the martial god scripture. A book containing all the knowledge of martial god, enabling the user to learn new skills according to their level. Kwon remembers Min Young told him that there are only 30 legendary grade items in the entire game so far, and now a god is giving him her skill book. The martial god brings him back from his trail of thoughts and tells him not to worry about learning from this book, as it will not make him her disciple, and this is just one technique. She also says someone who wants to surpass the limits of martial arts should not be tied down just by a mere tool of a technique. She then shows him one of her techniques that swirl the air and create a strong tornado-like wave of air. Kwon is amazed by her technique and thinks it was foolish of him to challenge someone like her. The martial god says she didn't name this technique yet and she wants him to practice it on his own and name it, and that is his homework for today. She disappears and leaves a small granite stone behind her. Screen appears and tells Kwon that it is the martial god's soul fragment, a legendary item with an unknown purpose. Kwon gets curious about what this unknown purpose can be and decides to use it and try to get information about this stone from the book. As he opens the book, a small version of martial god comes out of the book, surprising Kwon. The little martial god asks if he is ready to put some effort if he wants the power. She then tells him that all his spare ability points he has raised so far will be reset, and his level will decrease according to the spare ability points he has used so far. As the martial god tries to imply these changes, nothing happens because he has never used any spare points. What a weird person, the little martial god says, and she then sends him in the middle of the jungle in front of the waterfall, having a new glove with him this time. That is martial god's gauntlet. A legendary item used by martial god in the past that increases his attack power to 30,000 durability to infinite, and all stats are plus 1,000, which is insane and overpowered. Kwon thinks and tries to use it, and as he tries to use it, the gauntlet, but it adjusts according to his powers and also levels him up, because his level was too low to use this gauntlet. Then the gauntlet begins to ignite and the stats screen show Element Master Legend, sealed, and also he has completed the quest and martial god's final trial. The martial god's soul fragment reacts with the elemental master and the elemental attack fire is now available. Kwon wonders what that can be and tries to use it as he mimics to punch and a blow of fire happens. Kwon is happy to have these abilities and thinks he needs 5 more of the martial god fragments. He is happy that he can fight and can challenge again after a long time, Kwon thinks at the time he leaves the beginner's zone. At the airport, Young Min receives a message from Kwon saying he has passed the beginner zone and wants her to send him some items and money, as he will stay in the game for a bit. Young Min wonders if he already passed the beginner zone. It's just been a week since he joined the game. She decides to contact him through in-game messages. Young Min is shocked to see her brother has already reached level 50. Young Min tells him there are plenty of level 50 items he can find in the auction, so she will find and send them to him. She also advises him on how to use his extra ability points, so buy plenty of potions and rare scrolls. After a little conversation with his sister, Kwon thinks he should now go and test his skills. A group of bandits is watching over Kwon from a building and aims for his magic-grade equipment. Meanwhile, Kwon is wandering in a barren land and thinks if he is going on the right way. Just then he hears a girl shouting for help. It's the same girl from the bandit group. She says a monster is attacking her. A green beast gray main level 53 is behind the girl. Kwon decides to help the girl and easily throws him in the air, making the girl shocked by this. As the girl tries to talk to him, a flying arrow comes in the direction of Kwon, but he manages to escape it. The other 2 members of the bandit come to attack Kwon. The screen appears saying Kwon can attack or kill them for the sake of self-defense. Kwon is happy to read that and says if that is allowed there is no reason to avoid it and rushes to attack both guys. After a little fight, Kwon easily defeats both of the guys, then the girl comes to attack him. She attacks him from behind and thinks she won, but Kwon turned the tables around, defeating the girl by pulling her arm. Meanwhile, other group member gets up and comes to attack Kwon and the fight continues. Subscribe to watch more videos like these, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching and see you on the next part.